Hi, I'm Ruth Pierce, and I like to help people maximize their relationships. And it starts with maximizing the relationship to yourself. And that's something that we're always working on. We never arrive, but we keep working on it. And we've been going through the 7 habits of highly effective people. We're nearing the end. We're going to talk a little bit more about habit 6 today, synergy. But before we do that, let's review all the different habits. Habit 1, be proactive. This is where you are the adult, you're in charge of your life. You don't let other people tell you what your life needs to look like. You are in charge of your life. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. This is the one that starts with the funeral, your own funeral. And different people are talking about you. So what do you want them to say when your life is over? What legacy do you want to leave, both in your personal life and your professional life? And then the third one is put first things first. This is your priorities. Go to quadrant 2, where things are important and not urgent. Try to spend as much time in quadrant 2 as you can, and it'll simplify your life. And yes, go back and review a lot of this because we're just covering the highlights today on those different ones. These are the ones that take you. They are the internal ones, the core you. And they take you from being dependent on other people to being independent, being your own person, not letting others tell you who you should be. And then you move from independence to interdependence and relationships with others. And there's 3 more habits that you've got there. And that is habit 4 is think win-win. The more important a relationship is to you, you want it to be a win for both parties. You don't want to win-lose, where you win and the other person loses. You don't want to lose-win, that you lose and the other person wins. And there's other combinations a lot like that, or some variation of that, but those are the 3 big ones. The more important the relationship is to you, the more you want that win-win for both of you. And then habit number 5, seek to understand, then be understood. Most of us want to start telling our story, not necessarily our story, but why you need to think like I think. But be the bigger person, so to speak, and let the other person tell their point of view first. Tell it, take the time to get to where they know that you understand what they were going through or what they're thinking, how they're feeling. And then don't forget the second part, then be understood. Because if you only do the first part, you're doing a lose-win. You got to do both to get the win-win. And then ask them to listen to you until they feel like they can understand you. Now, a lot of times they can't hear you, your side of it, until they've expressed theirs. So give them what's called psychological air. That's the term that Covey uses. I also like to think of it as emotional air. And so they've got that space to express themselves and feel like they're understood, and then they're going to be more likely to understand you. And then habit 6 is synergy. And that's where you take the time to combine what both parties need or want and come up with that third alternative that's better than what either of you would have thought of by yourself. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's another way of saying it. Now, for synergy, you need to be secure in who you are, But don't be so secure in your position on an issue that you aren't flexible, that you can't see the other person's point of view. This is another thing that when I was listening to it this morning, that really hit me. And that is unity. It's not uniformity. We want people to be like us, and we want somebody to think just like us. But you lose so much when you do that. Be secure in who you are, and then be around people with different viewpoints. It's okay. And you'll learn from them, and they'll learn from you. And you'll both be better for it. There's a lot in this, but these are some of the things I want to bring out today. These are some of the problems with highly dependent people when they're trying to succeed in the reality that we have working with other people. They depend on borrowing strength from the position power. Haven't we all seen that? Or they may depend on being popular with others and they'll go for lose-win. The other one would have been win-lose, wouldn't it? Position power. They may try to use the win-win technique, but they don't want to really listen. They want to manage, and synergy cannot thrive in that environment. That's a key last phrase there. Synergy cannot survive in an environment where one person is not ready to listen. Insecure people think all reality should be the same as their paradigm. In other words, if they're seeing the young woman, then everybody else needs to see the young woman. Nobody can see the old woman. That goes back to the first part of the book. They had the need to clone others, to mold them over to their way of thinking. Haven't we been in meetings like that? Where somebody comes in and their agenda is to get everybody to their position. It's not fun, is it? Sameness is uncreative and boring. The essence of synergy is to value the differences. One of the keys to interpersonal synergy with other people is intrapersonal synergy. That is synergy within ourselves. And that, you can look at that all different ways, but one of the ways I like to look at it is the difference between my two brains, left and right. To have them have synergy within myself before I try to go out and deal with other people, or at least take those both sides of that brain with me. You've got to have those first 3 habits before you can do intrapersonal synergy. And there's another part over here that I really want to. We've got to value the differences with synergy. Value the differences. If you don't remember anything else, then that's important. Give me a minute here. I'm looking for something in my notes that was very important. And this was a force field analysis thing that this Kurt Lewin's model of force field analysis. He talks about whenever you're doing change, you have driving forces that are positive, and restraining forces are always there. They're negative, they're emotional, illogical, unconscious, and all of those things. And every time when you're trying to make some change, you're going to have those two things battling for each other. And you can increase the driving forces, and that will help to some degree. But find at some point that will be too much. But introducing synergy with those restraining forces, and this is where I wanted to get to, with the motive of habit 4, think win-win, and the skills of habit 5, seek to understand and then be understood, you can work directly on the restraining forces. You can create an environment where it's safe to talk about the forces. You unfreeze them, loosen them up, and create new insights that actually transform those restraining forces into driving ones. You involve people into the problem, and they become part of the solution. And these forces that we're talking about are true in our professional world, the work environment, in our families. I think even within ourselves. Like one of the things that we talked about on the mastermind today, sort of as a side thing, was you will never succeed higher than what you value yourself. Whether you're talking the money you make or the promotions that you do or what you do, if you don't think you're worth that much, you will sabotage yourself. That would be that restraining force to not do it. Synergy is important. Look for it, have it in your toolbox, and be ready to use it. And with that, I'll say goodbye.